Yes, I think it's clear now that the president-elect is actually questioning the whole foundation of the transatlantic alliance. He's never been a great fan of NATO. He said in the past that he regards it as obsolete. He's been very critical of Europeans for not contributing enough. And he suggested that he could do a deal with Vladimir Putin over the heads of the European members of NATO, which would perhaps undermine it fatally. He's also now really questioning the European integration, and that's been the other pillar, if you like, of Washington's transatlantic policy for 70 years. The US has always supported EU integration. Now it seems that President Trump is going to be a cheerleader for US disintegration, were that to happen. Well, the security of Europe rests on NATO. There was a period after the end of the Cold War when everyone thought that perhaps Russia would become integrated into the Western global system. That's not proved so. We've seen with the Russian incursions into Georgia and into Ukraine that Russia is a threat to the western half of the European continent, particularly to Eastern and Central European nations, but also to the general security of the continent, of Europe. So undermine NATO, you encourage Vladimir Putin's revanchism to try and win back, as it were, the sphere of influence that that he wants for Russia post-Cold War. And you begin to, if you like, encourage the nationalist spirits, demons that have always been present in Europe. The EU has been part of American as much as European policy for 70 years because the US has judged that a stable, prosperous Europe underpinned by a strong economy as well as the NATO security guarantee is in America's interest. This isn't just sort of altruism, as it were. Now, by undermining the EU, which is under lots of pressures anyway, partly self-inflicted, what Donald Trump would do is risk encouraging the splintering that we've already seen, a fracture of the EU alongside a weaker NATO takes you back into a history that most Europeans don't really want to remember. Well, at present, if one takes Mr. Trump at face value, the US is prepared to abdicate its role as a European power in favor of bilateral deals. Mr. Trump, the deal maker, with Mr. Putin, and perhaps after a while with Mr. Xi Jinping in China. But I'm not sure, and an optimist would say, let's not take Mr. Trump at face value. He is attacking, undermining the West, but he's not going to be there forever. The institutions of NATO and the European Union are quite strong. So talk to people in Berlin and Paris, and there is a view perhaps we'll have to hunker down for a few years. But if we stick with it, the institutions will be strong enough to survive even Donald Trump.